They were told it was just age, that the body no longer responds the same way, that blood flow slows, and overall function declines. Nothing unusual for someone over 60, according to the doctor who saw him, without giving it much attention. But 3 months later, he ended up in the emergency room with chest pain that felt like a heart attack. Yet, it wasn't his heart. The real problem was lower down. The blood vessels were no longer allowing what used to flow freely. No one explained to him that poor circulation doesn't just affect the legs or chest. It can also slowly and silently impact your intimacy, your self-esteem, and that quiet connection you share with your partner. I'm Dr. Brooks, and I've spent over 30 years helping men reclaim their health, their energy, and yes, their ability to feel alive in every way. I've seen thousands of men over 60 who come in thinking there's no way out, that wear and tear are irreversible. But the truth is different. Aging isn't the problem. The real problem is what no one talks about, what never comes up during checkups, what hides behind uncomfortable silences. And what most don't know is that there are simple, accessible, and safe changes that can completely transform how you feel about yourself and with your partner. Most people think baking soda is only good for cleaning or cooking, but when used in a certain way, which I'll show you shortly, it can have a real effect on circulation, on the elasticity of your arteries, and even on nitric oxide levels, a key substance for keeping your entire cardiovascular system healthy. And the best part is you probably already have this ingredient right in your kitchen, just waiting for you to discover its true potential. Yes, a simple white powder can help you regain that feeling of youth, vitality, and emotional as well as physical closeness. Don't worry, I won't use complicated medical jargon. My goal is to clearly explain why this method works, how it can help you, and how to use it safely. However, there is an important warning. Doing it the wrong way can have the opposite effect, especially in our age when the body reacts differently. That's why stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to share a method that has quietly transformed the lives of many older men across the country. And if you find this kind of information helpful, if you want more practical advice that truly improves your well-being, consider turning on notifications and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss any tools designed to help you feel stronger, more energetic, and more in control of your health. And if what you've heard so far has caught your attention, leave a comment. If not, just type a 0. Your feedback helps me keep improving and delivering valuable content for you. Let's start with a truth few dare to admit. Most older men never get clear information about what's really happening inside their bodies. And that silence is costing them more than they realize. Blood flow begins to decline gradually after the age of 50. But it's not just about feeling more tired. This decline affects your strength, your mood, and your desire to share intimate moments. It all begins with small signs: cold feet, icy hands, shortness of breath when climbing stairs, unexplained fatigue. But if ignored, it can develop into something much more serious and difficult to reverse. This is a very common problem among older men: poor circulation. I remember Walter, a 68-year-old man, retired and married for over 40 years. He didn't come to my office because of heart problems or intimate issues. He simply told me, "Doctor, I don't recognize myself anymore." His hands were cold, even in the middle of summer. He would fall asleep early every night, as if something inside him was shutting down. At first, he said nothing else, but over time and with trust, he admitted that his relationship had become distant and uncomfortable, as if an invisible barrier stood between him and his wife. It wasn't physical pain, it was a feeling of emotional disconnection. He felt that little by little, he was fading away from the person he once was. What Walter experienced is more common than most people realize. In fact, it's one of the major issues overlooked by the healthcare system. And it all begins with the same thing, blood flow. As the years go by, the walls of our blood vessels become stiffer. The arteries lose their natural flexibility. Blood flow becomes more difficult, and the smallest capillaries which keep us warm, energized, and sensitive to human touch begin to close off like old pipes. This process doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, progressive, and often mistaken for something inevitable. We call it aging. But it's more than that. Poor circulation doesn't just affect your body. It can also break your spirit, your identity, the way you see yourself as a man, as a partner, as a person. It can make you feel less capable, more distant, and even question your worth. It's not that you've lost interest, it's that your body no longer responds the same way, and no one ever explained why. But here's the hope. This process isn't permanent. There are real ways to improve circulation, restore elasticity to your blood vessels, and reignite that spark you thought was gone. And believe me, one of the simplest and most effective tools to kickstart that change is probably already sitting in your pantry. Yes, I'm talking about baking soda, but not just as it comes in the box. I want to show you how this everyday item, when used correctly, can help you reverse what's been holding you back, and why what I'm about to share could completely transform how you understand your body and your vitality. If you're still with me and these words resonate, I invite you to leave a 1 in the comments. That lets me know you're paying attention, that you care about your health, and that you're ready to take the next step on this journey. Because now we're going to explore something even more important, the hidden and often devastating consequences of poor circulation. I clearly remember the day when Charles broke down emotionally in my office. He was 72 years old. He had always been a strong, responsible man, protective of everyone around him, from his grandchildren to the stray cat he had unintentionally adopted. But that afternoon, something in his expression had changed. He was no longer the same. His body was there, but his presence felt diminished, not physically, but emotionally. He leaned forward, lowered his voice as if carrying a silent shame, and confessed to me, "Doctor, I no longer feel like a man." His tests were within the expected range. His heart was still beating strong, but I knew what was happening. Your body isn't directing blood where it's needed most, not just to your extremities, but also to those intimate areas that fuel confidence, desire, and a deep connection with the one you love. Poor circulation doesn't just affect your overall health. It starts to unravel your identity, piece by piece. It's like the lights going out in a house, one room at a time. First your energy fades, then your sleep quality declines, and eventually your ability to respond in intimate moments diminishes. But it doesn't stop there. It begins to affect you from the inside. You start to doubt yourself. You feel more distant from your partner even when they're right beside you, and that's not something a pill or time alone can fix. To truly understand this, we need to look deeper. From a medical standpoint, it all comes down to endothelial function. That is, the inner lining of your blood vessels. When that lining is damaged, your body loses its ability to produce nitric oxide, a vital compound that allows your arteries to relax and blood to flow freely. And guess which vessels suffer first? Not the large ones, but the smaller ones, which are directly linked to memory, arousal, body temperature, and vitality. What starts as mild fatigue or a slower response in intimacy can develop into something serious, a warning sign of cardiovascular disease, a higher risk of stroke, and even erectile dysfunction that doesn't respond to usual treatments. The hardest part is that most men only notice these changes once they're quietly but significantly impacting their lives. However, here's the hopeful part. Your body wants to heal. Blood vessels can regain their flexibility. Nitric oxide levels can naturally rise, and you don't need to rely on synthetic drugs that often bring more side effects than solutions. There are simple, powerful, and safe ways to begin healing from within. One of those involves an ingredient you've likely used your whole life, but never for this purpose. And when I started sharing this alternative with my older patients, many came back surprised, saying, "I didn't think I would feel like this again." Now it's time to talk about baking soda, a simple solution that is greatly underestimated. I remember Harold, a calm 67-year-old retired math teacher. He had tried everything: supplements, prescription medications, even uncomfortable devices he bought from late-night TV shows, but nothing worked. He felt exhausted, not only physically, but also mentally. I asked him a question that caught him off guard. "Do you have baking soda in your kitchen?" He laughed in disbelief. "The one for baking," I replied with a smile. "Yes, that one. But it's not just for baking. Most people associate it with recipes or using it to absorb odors in the fridge, but few know its potential inside the human body, especially in men who suffer from poor circulation and the invisible effects this has on their energy, self-confidence, and emotional connection. Baking soda isn't a magic powder, but it's more than just a simple ingredient. It's an alkalizing compound that, when used properly, can promote better blood flow and more efficient oxygenation. Just what we need as we age. Why? Because over time, the body tends to become more acidic. The causes are many: an unbalanced diet, chronic stress, and the natural decline in kidney function. This excess acidity constricts blood vessels and reduces available oxygen. Two things we don't want if we're already dealing with circulation problems. A small dose of baking soda diluted in water, taken at the right time, can help neutralize that internal acidity. The balanced pH favors easier blood circulation, and when circulation improves, real benefits follow. Warmer extremities, better responsiveness in intimacy, and overall increased vitality. I saw men like Harold notice subtle but meaningful changes: more energy upon waking, less body stiffness, a renewed interest in things that previously didn't catch his attention. Of course, it's not a miracle cure. It doesn't replace good habits like regular exercise, adequate rest, or a balanced diet. But for many, it was the first step toward a transformation they thought was impossible. The body, when given the support it needs, responds, sometimes even faster than you might expect. But there's something I can't stress enough. What works well when done correctly can become harmful if applied impulsively, without consistency or proper guidance. This is where things get more delicate, and if you're not careful, it can even be risky. Before you rush to grab that box of baking soda from your kitchen and start mixing, there's something you need to know urgently. I'm going to explain exactly how to use it safely and what mistakes to avoid if you really want to help your body without unintentionally harming it. Fourth, the danger of incorrect usage. I want to be completely honest with you. I've seen both sides of baking soda. On one hand, there are men who regained their energy, confidence, and even intimacy with something as simple as this white powder. On the other hand, I've seen cases where the enthusiasm for quick results led to serious consequences. One such case was Denise, a 70-year-old active man who still played golf twice a week. He read online that baking soda improved circulation and thought, why not give it a try? So he started taking a teaspoon each morning and another at night, believing that more was better. Within a week, his body began to show warning signs. He felt bloated, his blood pressure spiked dangerously, and he ended up in the emergency room with heart palpitations and mental confusion. What happened was that his kidneys, already weakened by years of silent effort, couldn't handle the excess sodium, because that's the point. Baking soda is not a poison in itself, but it can become a problem when used without understanding its true impact. This is not about taking it like a vitamin. This compound directly affects the body's internal chemical balance, altering pH, fluid levels, and sodium load in the blood. And if you're older, especially if you're taking blood pressure medications or have kidney sensitivity, Any imbalance can have serious effects. At this age, the body is like a delicate instrument. Any excess even of something natural can throw the whole system out of tune. I've had to explain this to many patients who, with good intentions, just wanted to feel better again, but didn't realize they were putting something as essential as their body's internal balance at risk. The good news is that all of this can be easily avoided if done correctly, and doing it right doesn't just mean using a smaller teaspoon. It means understanding when to take it, how it interacts with your hydration, how it affects the medications you're already taking, and above all, how your body responds day by day. It's about observing, being patient, and supporting the body at its own pace. It's not about rushing, but respecting the process. I always tell my patients, just because something is natural doesn't mean it's safe in any amount. Even water, when consumed in excess all at once, can be harmful. Baking soda has the power to heal, yes, but only when used with respect, care, and ideally under the guidance of someone who understands how your body works. And if you're still here, it's because you're not looking for shortcuts. You're looking for something real, something that helps you feel like yourself again without risking your health. So let me show you how to do it safely, because now comes what many have been waiting for, the exact way I use this method with my patients, when to take it, how much to take, and a little trick that makes all the difference. Fifth, how to use it safely. When I talk about baking soda with my patients, almost everyone asks me the same question. Okay, doctor, but how do you really use it? And that's the best question you can ask, because, as you've already seen, the difference between helping your body or making things worse lies in the details. For most healthy older adults, it's best to start with just a quarter teaspoon of baking soda dissolved in a large glass of water taken on an empty stomach. Ideally, this should be done in the morning before any meals, not before bed, and never repeated multiple times a day. Once is enough. It may seem small, but when it comes to internal balance, less is more. One of my patients, the King, was 74 years old and struggled with constant fatigue, especially in the afternoons. Walking just a few blocks was exhausting. We started this very simple practice, a quarter teaspoon every morning on an empty stomach in a full glass of water. 3 weeks later, he came to my office and said, "Doctor, I don't know what's happening, but I feel clearer, stronger, and my hands are no longer cold. But here's something few people consider: hydration. Bicarbonate works much better when the body is well hydrated. That means drinking water throughout the day, not just when you feel thirsty. When your blood is properly hydrated, it circulates better, delivers oxygen more efficiently, and enables all your systems to function more precisely, even those related to vitality and intimacy. So it's not just about the bicarbonate itself. Think of it as part of a broader change in how you take care of yourself. And if you're on medication, especially for blood pressure, heart, or kidney issues, check with your doctor first. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Your body has been through a lot and deserves your attention and care. You wouldn't drive a classic car without first checking the engine, right? Your health deserves the same consideration. Most men don't need miracles. What they need is a small victory, a positive change that gives them hope, a sign that they're not finished, not broken, that they're still here, waiting to feel alive again. And that small change can start with this very simple daily habit. If this resonates with you, stay with me a little longer, because now I'm going to tell you the story of a 76-year-old man who used this exact method, along with a small adjustment that took his results to a whole new level. What happened next is worth knowing. There's a man named Frank who I often think about. He was 76 years old, a widower, reserved, one of those men who speaks little, but when he does, it's because he has something truly important to say. He came to see me after a mutual friend told him about baking soda. He was hoping for a miracle, not to turn back time, but just to feel more like himself, more present, more alive, maybe even with the hope of opening his heart to someone again, even if just a little. We started with the same protocol I mentioned, a small dose of baking soda in the morning, good hydration throughout the day, and paying close attention to how his body responded. But Frank added something that, while it seems simple, changed everything. He added consistency. He wasn't one of those who tries something once and then forgets about it. He respected the process. He gave his body time to adapt, to gradually rebuild itself from within. Improvements didn't strike like lightning. They were subtle but steady. Warmer hands, deeper nights of sleep, a mental clarity he hadn't experienced in years. Then one day, with a half smile that said more than 1,000 words, he confided in me. I didn't think I'd feel this close again, but I do. Everything I've shared with you might seem simple, so ordinary, that it could be easy to underestimate, but don't be fooled by its simplicity. We talked about how poor circulation can dim the lives of millions of men over 60, how it drains energy, weakens bonds, turns desire into doubt and closeness into distance. How it can make you believe your best years are behind you, when in reality, all your body needs is oxygen and space to thrive again. We explored how something as common as baking soda, when used properly, can be the spark that ignites profound change. It's not magic. It's about restoring the balance your body lost, reactivating the flow that nourishes your vitality, your spirit, your sense of belonging in your own skin. We also talked about the most important part. None of this works without patience, respect, and commitment, because it's not about a quick fix. It's about understanding that your body has been asking for help, and now finally, you're listening. If you've ever felt tired, disconnected, or like something inside you was fading away without knowing why, I want you to know this. It's not too late. The ability to heal, to reconnect with yourself, to feel again, is still alive within you. Your body hasn't given up. It was just waiting for you to look at it again with care. Maybe this small change, a glass of water, a teaspoon, a moment of awareness, is the first step. A quiet decision that little by little brings you back to yourself. Tomorrow, not someday. Today, because you're not done. You're still here, and there's so much more to feel.